Now, with stacking gold and silver, especially if you've been doing it long enough, you're really only told the positives, even the hypothetical positives that may never come to pass. But you're really never drilled into the negatives, the drawbacks, the things that make gold and silver just, not efficient and not as good of an investment as other ways that you can put your money to work. But let's think about that. Let's think about some of the interesting things that make gold and silver not as attractive in those ways. So one of the big drawbacks of gold and silver in particular versus fiat. Now again, the stacking community is huge against fiat. They'll tell you every reason why fiat is the devil. Fiat is, it loses value, it loses purchasing power, it's guaranteed to lose value. It could end, fiat could go away. Every fiat currency has failed. They'll tell you every detail about why fiat is negative. But what they won't emphasize is the positives of fiat. Now, this is something that I think is really lost on, honestly, the people with less money, but it's very well understood by people with money. And that is leverage, the leverage power of fiat. Being able to turn fiat, like a small amount into fiat, of fiat into more fiat. So think about like a loan. Think about taking a loan. You borrow money today, you can buy assets today, and you can pay it back over time. Let's say a mortgage. That's a good example everybody can understand. You pay it back over time. Now, yes, you pay an interest rate, and right now the interest rates are higher than they've been in quite a while, but you pay it back with ever more worthless dollars. So, for example, your mortgage payment is set. The dollar amount is set. You know what you're going to pay. It's not going to change. Now, again, there are variations of that. You could have a variable rate mortgage or different things like that. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about, let's say, a 30-year conventional mortgage where you know what you're going to pay over that time period. Always remember, the dollar today is worth more than a dollar tomorrow. So that being the case, I'm paying a fixed amount with ever more worthless dollars on that loan. Now think about gold and silver. Something's lost there. You're locking your money up in this medium that you really can't do much with. I mean, once it's stored here, one of the big factors that they use to sell it to you, and I'm not saying like the coin dealers or the bullion dealers, I'm saying like stacking channels and other stackers, and like the mentality of stackers is that, well, I'm maintaining my value. Yeah, I guess. I mean, honestly, even when you look at the numbers on gold and silver, they don't necessarily always keep up with their value. I feel like a lot of times when you hear the statistics, like, oh, it's, from 19 blah, blah, blah to now it's done this and that. I feel like a lot of that data is cherry picked to kind of emphasize, oh, this is what gold and silver, keeps its value. Yes, I do think that there is an aspect of that to gold and silver, but I think there are definitely times when it doesn't, or at least it doesn't keep up with inflation. I mean, case in point, if you bought in 2020 and you have it now, not only are you underwater as far as value, but you certainly didn't keep up with inflation. Now, if you had it before that, and again, this is where stackers come in, oh, well, I've had it since 2020. Yes, okay, you gained value during that time, but again, think about housing, think about food, think about other things. They've, increased multifold in price as well. Does that make them good inflation hedges? Probably not. So this is the thing, and it's interesting because I think the reason, like I said, that more affluent people are going to understand this concept is because businesses, for example, or just people who are able to get themselves that kind of leverage with fiat, go and use that to purchase up assets that create more value. Whereas if you were taking that same amount of money and putting it into metals, it's dead weight, literally dead weight. That's one of the drawbacks. Now, one interesting concept that I thought of is, what if you could borrow in fiat backed by your stack? So what if you could pledge your, metals, whether it be gold or silver, for loans in fiat for very low interest because it's backed by your stack, and turn that fiat into other instruments, other assets, stocks, crypto, real estate, whatever it is. Start your business like was it Savage Stacker? This concept's not completely, lost on the world. Obviously there are pawn shops, but the thing with pawn shops is obviously they're going to prey on your desperation. They're going to charge you some insane interest rate. But the reality is, the big thing with stacking is, once you have, a sizable stack, you don't want to lose that stack, right? You don't want to have to sell it and then go back and buy it again, because you don't know what the price is going to be. Now, it's a risk. It's a calculated risk, right? You sell your stack, and let's say you get $2,000 an ounce for your gold, and let's say $25 an ounce for your silver. Great. But you don't know, when you have the actual fiat to buy it back, you don't know what that's going to be. You don't even know if you can get the same pieces back that you had. So it is a risk. Now, what if you have numismatics, or you have other things that you cannot, just go and sell and buy back? Well, then you're really stuck, right? You're absolutely stuck. Either you sell, or, potentially you pawn or something like that. I think it'd be interesting if there was a mechanism where people could pledge in an open, clear way. Again, not in some like one-off where it's like, yes, call blah, 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 gold and silver, and we'll lend you, based on a 20% interest rate for your, gold and silver. No, I'm talking about a normal loan. And I think it'd be actually really interesting if it was more mainstream, because I think it would be really good as a financial tool for people, because they would be able to store value just like saving fiat, but also maintain the ability to use that, those metals, gold, silver, whatever it is, in other ways like normal money, like the bank. You hear, so many times from stackers, be your own bank, be your own bank. Well, you're clearly not your own bank. This metals will never make you your own bank, at least not under the current system. What they will is, make you your own savings account, I guess, but you're definitely not the bank, because the bank makes money. Silver and gold don't make money. They really don't. I mean, you'll hear 1,000 times that, you're going to get rich, this is going to be it, blah, blah, blah. It's not going to happen. At least not in your lifetime, probably not in mine. It's not going to happen. And if it does, if the fiat system comes to a grind and halt, you're going to have way bigger problems than, oh, look, my silver and gold finally came into play. But I think it would be interesting. It's an interesting concept. If you could take, 100 ounces of silver and pledge it, silver bullion, to be clear, and pledge it for a loan of some type, or gold, 10 ounces of gold or whatever, and there were set rates that you could, put your money at. I think that would be hugely attractive, especially from, the other side, the counterparty, whoever's lending you this money. I think it would be good for them too, because it's backed by a physical asset that's, very liquid, very well understood, especially, in the metals arena. What if you could get a loan from a bullion dealer? Why the hell don't they do that? I could see, so, okay, we're making it a little too simplistic. Any type of lending is obviously a regulated environment. There's a lot of laws that apply to it. It's not something you can just go, hey, all right, I'll lend you, blah, blah, blah. No, there's a lot that applies to it. And it is kind of a legal quagmire. So I'm not just saying, this is more of a hypothetical. But I mean, it would be interesting, especially for, let's say, for example, look at people who have precious metals IRAs, where they can't touch that. They cannot take physical delivery of that bullion. Precious metals IRAs to me are kind of like a scam, really. I mean, realistically, they are a scam. Think about it. You're paying to store bullion in a depository that you cannot take physical delivery of unless you take a distribution, which would be the same thing as if I had cash sitting over there and then distributed, if I had a gold ETF, sold the gold ETF, because the gold ETF is going to move with the price of spot, just like my bullion would without the premiums, and I could just liquidate that ETF and buy my bullion. Why the hell do I have to have physical bullion sitting in some depository and then pay a storage fee for the depository? I honestly think it's kind of a scam. It's kind of, yeah, it's kind of gross. Anyway, I think these kind of things are concepts that, like, if they really came into fruition for the stacking community, or for people with physical assets like metals, it would make a lot of sense. But I think that the flip side of that is that people don't understand, stackers don't understand that there's a cost to holding metals. You're definitely not your own bank, because silver and gold in your safe isn't making you money.